This is express training about the fluids and pumps on the Raphael robotic coating system. There are 3 different tips that you can put into the robot. They all use the quarter turn lure lock fitting on the end. We have the brush for production, normal production. We have a needle which can be used for dripping and for alignment. And then we have what we call the lunch tip, which is just a needle that's pinched off at the end to preclude air from getting to the system when you leave for lunch or any other time, any short period. When you attach the brush, use both hands, find the threads and give it a pretty snug quarter turn inward. In the morning, what you're going to do is purge the materials out into the brush, and you want to do that in 2 stages. Usually you purge the solvent first and then the coating. The solvent is on the right, it uses the right pump, and it's the tube that's on the right. The coating is on the left, it uses the left pump, and it uses the tube that's on the left. In the software there's a purge function, purge solvent, purge coating, and what that does is it runs the pump just the right amount to push the material up through and right to about this point here. So you can push the solvent, you can push the coating, and then once it gets here you can push the mixture through. You want to have a waste cup down here while you do this, otherwise it'll go everywhere. So come over to the software under the Conformal tab. The first pick is Purge Conformal, the second is Purge Solvent. Let's hit that one, and it's going to run for a period of revolutions. Oops. I'm going to disconnect it so it doesn't pump for right now for this demo. It'll run for a number of revolutions to get the fluid all the way up to this point. So that's the solvent. Then you want to purge the Conformal. Say okay to that. Now it'll purge the conformal coating up through the pump, through the tubes, right to about this point. The number of revolutions it makes is controlled by this setting here. See, it says tube settings. You have the number of milliliters in the coating tube and the number of milliliters in the solvent tube. Normally these numbers are 9 and 11. The solvent tube is a little bit longer. I made them shorter just for this video. At this point, you should have coating and solvent right up to the mixer. And to get it to go out through the brush, you can use the Purge Mixture button. This will go 1 milliliter at a time. You may have to hit this 2 or 3 times before it starts dripping out of the brush. It'll rotate the 2 pumps at the ratio that you've defined in your program. Also on the Conformal tab, you've got purge and retract commands for 0.1 milliliter, 1 milliliter, and 10 milliliters for both conformal and solvent. You can use these at any time to push material in or out of the brush. Be very careful with these last 3, retract solvent. If you do too much of this, you'll get coating into your solvent tank and contaminate your solvent tank. So generally you actually never have to use the retract solvent at the bottom. Now at the end of the day, at the end of your run, you're going to clean the robot, and that is a 2-step process. Also on the Conformal menu. At the middle here, clean tubes step 1. When you hit that, what it's going to do, it's going to run the Conformal pump backwards, and it's going to draw material up through here, and again it's going to stop based on the length of the tube that you've programmed, that you've set. Leave the brush on at this point, and that will take some of the material out. And what this is doing, it's saving the material that's in the tube, putting it back in the tank, so that you can use it tomorrow. Then you can go and do step 2. Clean tube step 2. At this point, it'll prompt you to reconnect the hoses and says see diagram. It's talking about this diagram up here. This is the running connection and this is the cleaning connection. This hose is green, but what it really means is the green marking on the end. So at this point, you take the brush off. You take the white connector. This is the lure connector also, and it's a 1/4 turn. Normally I unscrew this a bit, put it on there till I find the threads and screw it together. If you don't unscrew it first, the twisting of the torque of the tube makes it want to come apart while you're running it. Then the green tubes you can hook up just like this. Then you go back to the software and say okay that you've made the reconnection. And what it's going to do now, it's going to pump some solvent through the system and into the waste tank. And you'll see it dripping in the waste tank. It'll stop the solvent pump but keep the conformal pump running. And what that does is it circulates it around in the tubes and it's getting the viscous off the walls of the tubes. You know, the coating likes to hang on the walls of the tubes. And this is sort of a washing machine action. It runs this for a while, then it pumps in some new solvent. Runs this one for a while, pumps in some new. It does it about 6 times. This process takes about a ½ hour. You can go away and leave it, it should be fine in the morning. There's one other step you can do. Let's assume it's. I'm going to stop it. After the the cleaning cycle is complete, what you can do is loosen this pump by flipping that tab up like that. Leave it like this at night and that'll reduce the pressure on the tube during the night and save wear and tear on the tubes. Don't release this one because if your tank is full and your brush is low, it may start a siphon and siphon all of this into there and it may run out on the floor. So leave this one connected. From time to time you may have to change the hoses. They do wear out over a period of weeks. And the way you do that is you flip this up, you slide this part of the pump up, you take the tube from here, unlatch it from under there, wrap it out under the back, around here, and you just reverse the action to put the new piece of tube on. There's a drawing up here, a set of diagrams that explains how this is done. When you put the top back on, it's very important 2 things. There's 2 dovetails here that have to match those 2 dovetails, and the tube has to fit in the trough in this piece. If you don't get those 2 things accomplished, what will happen is the pump won't be able to turn. And you can feel it comes down pretty easily when the tube is in the groove. Then you pull this latch down, kind of squeeze it a little bit so the rubbers go between there, and flip it to the back, it'll stay there. Then you can come over and do a quick run using, say, Purge Conformal, just to make sure that it's running. Sometimes you have to run it forward and backward to get it the pump to settle in and so that it's ready to go.